So shall we start, James?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. You see my screen all?
Yeah, we do.
All right. I have muted all the participants for this Q&A session. If you have a question, this is how it works. First of all, James and I, we will go through a small presentation about ourselves and QAI Ventures and the program. Then we have prepared some frequently asked questions, which we will answer. And whenever you have a question, please feel free to ask that question. But it's easiest if you just write it in the chat. For all, as a small information, we record this as well. If you want to share this with team members later, we will share the link on LinkedIn. As soon as I'm not blocked on LinkedIn anymore, I used AI tool, and it looks like LinkedIn is not very much happy with users using AI tools, so you get blocked. So this is just small warning, but never mind. So let's get started with the QAI Ventures Q&A session for our Accelerator program. I'm Thomas Landis. I'm the Chief Product Officer and head of Accelerator of QAI Ventures. With me is James Sanders. He is our program manager and also coaching our portfolio and our startups during the program. And as you all know, we have an accelerator program which is hosted in Switzerland and in Calgary. But this session is mainly for the accelerator program in Switzerland, which sign-up period closes by 31st of January. No worries, you will see all the dates on one slide at the end once again, and we will post them very often on LinkedIn and other our social media. So maybe in a nutshell, quickly, what is QAI Ventures and what we are trying to do? We see ourselves as an ecosystem builder for startups and other stakeholders. So what we basically do is we work very close together with universities. For example, we have a partnership with the University of Basel, with Zurich, ETH, and also Calgary, and others are in the pipeline. So we help actually young talents or postdoc students, for example, or spin-offs already from universities to actually bring their great ideas to a product. So we more experts on how to commercialize ideas out of the lab. And therefore, we have actually set up three programs, a company building program, an accelerator program, and the scale-up program. But this session is all about the accelerator program. So the accelerator program we are having in Basel and in Calgary, it is actually for startups who already have a functional prototype or maybe tested their hypothesis in the lab and now want to commercialize this product. So we help those teams to finalize the product or bring it to a next level and make sure you get market feedback or first buying customer. Depends a little bit on the maturity of the product. So once again, for those who have arrived late, if you have a question, just write it in the chat, and James and I, we will actually answer this during this session. So meaning how we do this, we have an accelerated program. We will go in details just in a moment. We invite entrepreneurs and startups to be part of that accelerated program. Those teams should already have a functional team, meaning we are only working with teams, meaning your team must be at least two founders. If you don't have a second founder yet, we're happy to help you finding another founder, but we are not investing in startups which are single founders. Then you should already have a prototype as said, and we help you actually to make sure you can commercialize this in the future. So how we do this is beside our accelerator program, we also do investments in the startups. So meaning our accelerator program, we invest in the startups up to 200,000 Swiss francs. So it's very early stage. And we have some enabling factors in Basel and in Calgary. So we bring our partner ecosystem to the startups and the entrepreneurs. We have education of corporates as well. So meaning, corporates as potential buying customers of your products, they need to understand that quantum is a hot thing and that must be on their innovation roadmap. So we spend a lot of time to educate actually corporates about quantum and also AI. So therefore we have a big space and the community we bring very often together. and meaning we run events and roundtables. So, James, you just jump in if I missed something important. But let's talk about our building blocks. So we have mainly two main building blocks. One is our investment fund. It's a 50 million Swiss francs fund. We invest in pre-seed and Series A startups. Our tickets for those startups are between 500,000 and 2 million. We take the lead or a co-lead in the investor role, and we invest globally. So we don't focus only on Switzerland or Europe, so we really invest globally. But on the accelerator side, so what we give to startups is we give them access to quantum hardware and services for those who need that. So this means we have contracts with D-Wave. We have the fastest quantum computer in Europe standing in Basel in our offices from IonQ. It has been just released last December, and we're very happy that actually the team of IonQ is in the same building as the accelerator, so we have direct access to those people as well. We have contracts with D-Wave, I think I already mentioned, with IBM, with QAI, and with any other quantum hardware provider you want to have access with. So we give the startups this access. We give the startups, but also access to our accelerator program, including one-to-one mentoring. What does this mean? So meaning we see that very often quantum startups are extremely good in understanding physics and quantum, but not necessarily on commercializing this product. So we have experts in the business side, we have experts on the quantum side, but for example, we also have access to mentors in the IP field. For example, if you are a startup who coming right out of the ETH, sometimes your IP situation is not very clear. Maybe you still work partially for the university. And as you must know, as an investor, you mainly invest in IP. So therefore, we help the startups to make sure the IP really belongs to the team or to the startup, and then it makes you investment ready. So therefore, we have a big mentor or pool of mentors who are subject matter experts on that. And to use that service, we give the startups an investment which is in kind. So where we make sure that those subject matter experts do not overcharge you. So we give you a budget on working with those, and we also let you run through an assessment where we find out where you need most help, and then we try to somehow sit together with the startup and see where they need most help. Some of the startups need IP help, some of them need business help. We have a few startups which are, for example, need to boost their sales pipeline. So we give them helping hands and subject matter experts who can really help them in going in that direction. On the other hand, oh, I see we still use here the Calgary slides. We have shared desk at Quantum City in Calgary. I mean, actually, you have also, as a Swiss startup, you have access to those in Calgary, but we, of course, offer them in Basel as well. So you have actually access to Quantum City in Calgary and also in Basel in Switzerland. As said, we invest up to 200,000 Swiss francs. Half is cash, other half is in kind. In kind, as said, can be used, for example, to get the quantum hardware access. So meaning there, we always try to buy access or also access to mentors in a bulk way. Make sure the startups get a better quote than if you would get on the open market. And we take shares from you to actually pay those bills. So meaning we pay the vendors and you guys pay us with shares. So this is how this works in the accelerator. And those numbers are by the way, are negotiable. So meaning we normally have a ratio of 50-50, but sometimes startups simply don't need quantum access. And then we do understand that you don't want as much in-kind investment from us. So we can discuss this with startups individually. And very important, since quantum startups are very often B2B startups, you need to have first buying customers, which are very often corporate partners. And there we make sure that those corporates do understand your solution could be actually a problem solver for their problems. So we give you access to our corporate and also the academia partners and the network. All right. So James, you want to take over the program models?
Yeah, if you go back to the last slide just quickly, Thomas, just to kind of explain, I know that there's a lot of moving parts with what we're doing. So if we're talking about the investment side of things, and it's get a couple questions from startups on this. So what we have now is exactly how Thomas operated. So we invest, convertible notes. We have a second tranche and a second fund that invests kind of follow-ons of those startups up to 2 million, and we're in the process of raising a $150 million fund so we can invest in Series B and C startups. So at QAI, we have a simple moniker where we talk about lab to IPO. So in the slide prior, Thomas explained kind of the programs that we have, and we're trying to complement those programs with investment vehicles as well. So our aim is we have really early stage startups that go through the Accelerator program, and that will be able to not only help with services, access to quantum hardware, mentoring, but also funding throughout the journey until exit as well. So just wanted to say that's what we're working on, just as well as the portfolio companies in our program and the startups. So just wanted to touch on that.
Now you want to explain the program models?
Yeah. So the program itself, so it's a 5 month program. It's a virtual program, we like to think of, but we do have 4 mandatory weeks where we have the startups in-house in Basel for these 4 masterclass sessions. And we have it structured in a way where the first 2 weeks you'll notice are back-to-back weeks. So it's 2 continuous weeks where we focus on the planning the future and the important stuff in the week 2. Then we come back in week 3 in August, and then we'll have a typical investor and demo day week in week 4 in October. So the way we have the module set up is really, of course, not every startup company is one size fits all. So there are some companies that ask, "Hey, we already have a vision. We already have a strategy." We really believe it's good to challenge it, and we always think that the companies that are the most successful always revisit this. So it is a good opportunity for those that maybe already have it to revisit, and we do that along with some of the companies that have never done this before. It's in person. We are entrepreneurs ourselves, Thomas and I. So it is kind of like a mini MBA coursework, but we do ensure that the companies do have, or the startups that are in the program have running companies and work. So there are free times during those weeks to answer emails, return to colleagues, follow up with investors, etc. But those times that we are there, we will be, very school-like, working on it, structured, all with the idea that we've done this a number of times and we want to better help you structure yourself as businesses. So with the very quantum and AI focused, we get a lot of academia that maybe a lot of first-time founders that we can help support. So this is a very business focused, our approach with things, with the complementary layer of quantum over it. So that's kind of how the modules look like. And again, along the way, this is kind of the business course. We do have guest speakers. We have people from the quantum industry, our mentors, experts that have built companies before that we can learn from and do a lot of networking. That's what we hope to do as well during the in-person weeks in Basel, Switzerland.
So maybe let me add to this, since James has said, we know that not one size fits all because of different different startups. What we do in the beginning of the Accelerator program, we do an assessment, like a 2-hour assessment with each startups on those topics we think startups need to be accelerated with. And then what we're trying to do during those weeks, that we bring in the subject matter experts who can teach the startups actually getting better on those topics we think are important from the assessment point of view. All right, so let's go on. As said, if you have a question, just type it in the chat, please. So who is the program designed for? Maybe let me quickly explain this. So we invest in startups in pre-seed stage to seed stage. So as said, if you have not found your co-founder yet, you are not able to exit or to access our program. But if you already have kind of a team together and you have a working prototype, or your product is actually ready for the market, and this is actually where we want you. We focus on quantum computing, quantum algorithms, quantum as a service, quantum communication, quantum sensing. So meaning we really focus on quantum only. Sometimes we also like to have one or two startups in the program who are AI startups, but I think that adding quantum could bring their AI solution to a very next level. So let me explain this maybe on one of our investments we did. For example, we had a medtech startups. They took a blood smear and AI calculated how cancer is developing. And with coming into our program, we actually understood that they could somehow get better results with the quantum computer than a normal AI computer could provide them at the beginning. So, as an example, they said, the results we see are comparing watching TV in the 90s and watching 4K. And those also are startups, for example, if you are an AI startups, which we also like to bring into our program because we can give those startups access to quantum and the know-how. And very often, this is also very beneficial for the startup because suddenly you can maybe patent being the first quantum startup in your specific topic. All right, we would say typical team size is 2 to 10 people with strong scientific or technical background. So we help you there on the business side. And as I said, we only work with teams. James, anything to add from your side?
Yeah, there's a couple of good questions
Okay.
in the chat, and I think those would be best if it's okay for those that put in the chat. Let me answer those at the end because that might come back to our investment and our strategy. Because I think the next couple slides that we're going to share is more about the proposition to you, the startup. But those are good questions, and I will answer.
All right. So maybe let me touch quickly on our value proposition once again. As said, we invest up to 200 Swiss thousand francs. Half is in cash, half is in kind. We have top mentors in different industry with different skill sets. We are really there to heavily support the startups in the business side, but also on the quantum side. So, for example, we have subject matter experts also in the quantum side, or if ever you need somebody who maybe challenge your product on the quantum side, we also have access to those. We have the access to the infrastructure, so we can give you access to quantum computers or simulation environments in AI or cloud hardware. But not only the hardware, also know-how access and experts. We have quite a huge network so we can help you in connecting with relevant partners, customers, or other startups in our cohort, or our alumni as well. And what we also always try to do, we try to put the startups as often as possible on stage in front of relevant people. So, for example, one small teaser I want to give, we are planning to have our demo day this year, not in Basel. We are planning to have it at Europe's largest quantum technology fair in Paris. So meaning there, we're traveling with the startups to Paris and bring you on stage in front of experts who might also have good feedbacks or also investments for you. All right. So this is kind of our value proposition. Anything you want to add, James?
Nothing here. Covered it well.
Thank you. So maybe you want to explain why startups should join us?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything that we've talked about so far. So it's one of those, maybe I'll flip it around and say why startups shouldn't join us. So if you're a company out there that says, hey, I'm only looking for the investment. I don't want to, I don't need any coaching. I don't need development. I don't need access to hardware. I just want the money. We're probably not the company or the program for you because what we really want to do is really be hands-on with you, help you out, help you grow, plug into our quantum ecosystem, but also from our business ecosystem to help you expand. As we're talking about our European companies, I'm assuming most of you here are European based, but as we're growing our footprint both in North America and also we're going to eventually get into Asia as well. We want to help our companies grow that way. So if you only want money, happy to have that side conversation with you. But if you're really looking to be a part of a quantum ecosystem, yes, of course, most of you come out of the labs, universities, you have your own scientific ecosystem, but from a business quantum ecosystem, then we would love to have you. But if we look at why, of course, investments. So we have a very rigorous selection process. The companies that we bring into the accelerator program, we would look at them as an investment. So yes, it's early stage. Yes, there's maybe nothing developed yet. There's no clients, and there might not be clients from a year down the line, or 2 years, or even 3 years. But what is the business opportunity from an investment case? So we're looking for those ambitious entrepreneurs that have the vision, that understand what they're building, understanding what they're building and how it can fit into the product roadmap and their eventual clients, and we want to help support along the way. So that's kind of how and what we're looking for. But with any accelerator, especially our early stage approach, we're just looking for passionate entrepreneurs, co-founders that are looking for help and support, and we want to go all in and help and support you along the way.
Yeah. All right. So let's
there's a couple of questions, and maybe I just jump on the last question that's in there, if it's okay, Thomas, about sensing, including in quantum photonics. So maybe I talk about our structure of Kai as a whole. We don't limit ourselves to a certain technology. We understand that we might have within a cohort, what we don't want is two exact companies. So we don't want to have competitive companies within the cohort, but within our portfolio and as it grows, there might be some competition. We're okay with that at the early stage because of the small ticket sizes, the programs that we have across the world. That's just going to be natural. You can't avoid that. But we're also spreading quite broad when we talk about different quantum and quantum fields. We're not limiting ourselves to anything. When we were first set up, we had the ambition that it would just be software, and we've kind of have a couple of hardware companies as well. So just to be aware. So that's also true. And then we've also have companies, as Thomas alluded to before, that maybe have no quantum, that are more AI focused, and how we can implement quantum into their solution. So we're very broad. We don't limit ourselves to anything. Hopefully that, Nasir, hopefully that answers your question. So the answer is it does include it. If I look back at the other questions, maybe I can answer about how Kai Ventures came to be. So Kai Ventures, when we were originally set up, we're set up in Basel, Switzerland. We're part of a campus in Basel, the Quantum Basel, the ecosystem as well. And the family office of Thomas Stähling, which is the Schindler Elevator family, they did some research where they can kind of influence the world, and they came on quantum, and they've now quantum and AI and big data and advanced computing, and they've sunk almost $500 million into infrastructure solutions and setting up an investment fund. So the original funds come from that family office. There are additional investors that we have in the pipeline that are looking to join Thomas Stähling in his vision. And that's why we're raising the additional funds, because of a number of family offices and potential pension funds that are interested in what we're doing. And that's why we're raising this $150 million round. So that's the original source of funds. The ambitions from the Stähling family is not to be the only funder of this. They want to go in it with a large consortium of other investors, and that's our ambition. So the fun part is we are coaching startups on how to do fundraising, as we do the same thing in parallel, just doing it with larger investors. So that's kind of where the source of funding comes from. When we look at the very first question about how do we measure success, so we'll measure success at different levels based on kind of our investments in our programs. So if we're looking at our pure investments that we do, and we have made a few pure investments outside of our accelerator program, up to 2 million, that have not gone through our program, it's your classical investment, revenue, clients, fundraising, really, market traction. So that's where we're doing. When we look at performance at the very early stage, of course, it's a little bit different. And it's everything that a typical accelerator will track. So it's anything from employees, from LOI signed, some product development. And we will measure then our portfolio companies that are within the accelerator almost on a case-by-case basis, because something that Thomas alluded to as well earlier in the presentation is that the milestones, or I'm sorry, the money and the investments are triggered based on milestones. And we have certain sets of milestones that every company goes through and has for their own company. That comes through the master classes, but we also have startup specific milestones that we will help develop and work with the companies on before they start the program all the way till graduation. So we will also measure the success with each individual startup the same way. So hopefully those answer the questions. And Thomas, I don't know if you want to add anything on to those questions or to those that had the questions. If that answered, maybe a thumbs up, thumbs down, or maybe comment if there's any follow-up questions on that in the chat, just let me know.
All right. Let's go into our questions we prepared, James, as well. So maybe
Sure,
just
of course.
out some questions. So first, important question, how do you sign up? Well, go on a website or scan the QR code. No worries, we will show you that later as well. Important.
Oh, 1 second, Thomas. There's a last question that came in. The answer is yes, it is interesting to us. So Richard, that's hopefully a simple, easier question. Go ahead, Thomas. Sorry.
Good. All right. So sign up phase is closing by 31st of January. So do this through our website and then the process is started. Takes about 20 minutes to fill out. So what criteria are considered during the selection of startups? James, would you like to answer that?
Yeah. So we've touched a lot about this already. And I think one thing that we really say is two co-founders. We understand there might be, I just want one. We really want to invest in teams. For us, that's important, especially as we go through the master classes, because a lot of the workshops, we do it in groups and pairs. So that's really, really important for us. And again, this is a quantum and AI accelerator with a very heavy leaning on the quantum side of things. If there's an AI focus, it's how can AI implement quantum in the future, if at all, explore it. So that's really what we're looking for.
All right. How does the program last? I think you already explained this as well. It's a 5 month program. You must be on site for 4 weeks during the master classes. As said, the first 3 weeks will take place in Basel, while the final week, including demo day and investor day, will partially be held in Paris, in France. So there, if we say you must be on site, meaning we must have 2 founders on site for the whole 4 weeks. We are not negotiating on that because if we want to work with you guys on strategy things, we cannot do a strategy with your trainee. We need really to sit down with the founder. So that's why we're very strict on that. If you cannot manage to do that, then this is not the program for you, probably.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, I had sessions where we had 3 founders which didn't want to be in the program in our room, and we talked about vision, and we heard 3 different kind of visions from the 3 founders. And if you are unable to align your vision under your co-founders, how should you transfer this to a strategy to your team and actually make sure that they work on the right thing? So that's where we can help you, and that's where we help. So that's why we're very strict on those 4 masterclasses to have 2 founders with us.
And the one thing about this, the last thing, Thomas, yes, we talk about the program, how long does it last? But as we are investors in you guys, upon graduation, we are very still close with the companies. We still have monthly meetings with those companies, helping them performance and strategy, and then part of the alumni network. So just as it isn't 5 months, see you later, we move on to the next one, which yes, we do that and have to do, but the investor side of things will make sure that we take care of the companies along the way.
All right. Good. So very next question, how does the investment look like? James, you want to explain this again?
Yeah, so we have basically, like you said, Thomas, we have 2 agreements. One is just the batch agreement. So everything that is non-financially related, so everything about what is expected out of us as Kai and what we are to deliver to you, that's highlighted. Everything that we ask of you to participate in the program and what you need to deliver, and all of the NDA or the NDAs, confidentialities, a lot of those topics. So that's the one batch agreement. The other one is your typical convertible loan or safe agreement. Depending on your jurisdiction, we're happy to be flexible on what we sign and how we sign. But that will be signed by the investment fund. And by the time that this program is set up, it'll be set up by the new investment entity that will be a Luxembourg entity that we will set up. And those investments and those negotiations will be handled by the investment team. That will be done on a case by case basis. But your typical CLA or SAFE agreement is maybe a 15-20% discount with a cap. It will be very startup friendly. It's not very onerous clauses or that might supersede other investors. It's very simple and industry standard.
All right.
Any questions, just put them in the chat along the way. I'm happy to answer them or even go back if there's any questions on any of these topics.
So you already touched this, James. What is meant by milestones?
Yeah, the milestones. So when we have our masterclass weeks, I mean, sometimes I simplify by saying homework in a way, but we have our masterclass weeks where we have our experts in certain fields that come in and present. And during the workshops, you'll be delivering something for your teams, and you will have 90%, 80% of the homework or milestones delivered during the master classes. So there is something that you can take away that you can implement with your team, either from an operation, a management perspective. But after the master classes, so after those dedicated in-person weeks, roughly 4 to 6 weeks later, we have milestones that are to be delivered. And those are all in the back of the masterclass weeks. So it really forces the teams to, after we've kind of worked on it, very intense weeks, take a couple deep breaths, go back as a team, review what you've learned during the weeks, maybe augment some of your answers, maybe implement some of the things, feedback, and then deliver it back to Kai and the Kai team. And why we're doing this, not because we want to force homework on you, because we really think after all these years, what we've been able to deliver is beneficial for the companies, but also the milestones are documented, and also the way in which we trigger the payments that are on the back of the CLA or SAFE agreements to ensure that there's growth and development of the startup through the program. So that's that. So there's a quick question that came in that might be pertinent for now is, will it work if one co-founder will attend full 4 weeks while other co-founders will attend partially depending on the topic? Absolutely. That's completely okay. And we've had that done in the past. In the agreement, to be fair, we have a desk for 3 co-founders at a time. If there's ever a need where there needs to be 4 co-founders, we will always be accommodating, just as far as space. But yes, we understand that especially some people will not be able to come for certain weeks, and that's completely okay. The one thing I will say on this, however, is that if you are interested in the Kai and being a part of this and going through the application process, of course, we can't tell you now if you're in or not, but the dates we have are set. And from a organization point of view, if this is something as a high priority, I would already block these dates in your calendar of when the program is, so there isn't a conflict. So if there is a ability to be flexible from the professor work or teaching or whatever, if you can block those dates, it might be beneficial. Would be my suggestion to you.
All right. Shall we talk quickly about in-kind investments, James?
Yeah, sure. Do you want to go ahead and touch on this?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, this is a point where we always have discussions with the startups prior to the program, I would say. Once they are in the program, then it is very beneficial also from the startup's point of view. So, as said, we pay partially of our investments with in-kind, and this in-kind, in the easiest way, you are an algorithm development company and you need access to quantum computers, and maybe you want to test your algorithms on different hardwares. So therefore, we give you the access to D-Wave, IBM, QAI, you name it. And with our contracts, we also ensure that you get more minutes or more hours or more support from those corporates. Or for example, that you can test your solution on the latest machines. So for example, with IBM, we're one of the few companies globally who have contracts with IBM to use the latest machines. We have reserved slots for just our program, and we also have access actually to the subject matter experts on the side of the quantum computer. If you are not in the use of quantum hardware, then there are many other things where we as an investor think startups need to focus on, but you might think it is not actually worth it spending money on that. So for example, maybe uh, reorganize your strategy. One example, going back to the medtech startup. Maybe you remember we have a startup, what they are doing, they actually doing an analysis of a blood smear, which today is done by a lab. And this lab has 2 weeks of time and charges you about $1,000 for this thing. So now the problem is this new solution based on AI and quantum costs only like $100. And yeah, actually the customer who should resell it is actually the lab. But the lab has no interest in actually, cannibalizing its product. So what we help, for example, with the in-kind service with that startups to reshuffle the value proposition of the startup, that they could somehow find another value proposition to sell it to the lab. So meaning, for example, this value proposition looks like this like that. Maybe you remember COVID. In COVID, you had quick tests, up the nose at home, and you could see, am I positive or not? But to really be sure, you went into the hospital and they did a check on the lab. And they somehow reorganized their value proposition now, even though it is exactly at the same level as the other. And for example, this is a value proposition change. Maybe the specialist on the medtech side and the quantum side would never have come up with, but our subject matter expert on marketing helped them really to reshuffle the value proposition. This is very much needed sometimes because, corporate world is not waiting for your solutions if they don't understand the problem or don't see a bigger market they have. Or another topic we always have is one I can share here. For example, the IP support. As said, we know sometimes IP is unclear. And maybe you somehow need to sit down with a very experienced lawyer who understands what really the IP rights are from your university, and if you are only the person who can use it. And this is so crucial for have a sustainable growth or also future investments. And that's why, for example, we help the startups to maybe finalize their patents with our mentors, or maybe just to understand, hey, what is really in the contract written with the university we have developed this with. And so those are two examples. We have many more. For example, setting up a sales pipeline in B2B business, doing marketing things. So there it's very open and it's depending on your needs. Based on our experience and our support, we look together with the startups always where is the money spent best. All right. Now I see there's a question about, could you discuss about the community of experts you have access in order to help us find to do marketing and to cover our initial leads for one of our QS products? Yes, of course we would have. You want to go deeper on that, James?
The experts that we have. So we try to broke up our experts and our mentors in kind of two blocks. We have some non-quantum experts, and we have some very quantum specific experts. We have the very quantum focused ones that are entrepreneurs that have done this before, that help navigate the quantum world, sales, investment pipeline. We also have sales and marketing experts also in the quantum space that work with our companies. But essentially, and again, it's a very simple idea. We have a whole list of what do early stage companies need, and we have support functions to help them along the way. So it's anywhere from sales to marketing to some of the soft factor skills like how to present, how to do profiling. There's a lot of things that we have. So we want to ensure that our network of mentors and experts is robust enough to help with any kind of solution. And if there is something that we don't have, and as we are working with the startups during the interview process along the way that we say, hey, they might need this solution, we will go out and help find it. Simple as that.
Exactly.
So there's that. Now there's a couple of other questions just above it that I'll quickly answer. When selected startups, when will it be announced? So we have so our process, we have the applications, we'll then do online interviews, and then we'll do a thing where we do speed dating. And it's just as it sounds. We actually have all of the selected startups, maybe the top 10 to 15 startups come to Basel with our experts, and we will be interviewing them in person for a full day. And on the back of that, we will select the roughly 7 companies that will join the program. And tentatively, the decision day will be on the 15th of April. So the program then starts on the 26th of May. So about a month and a half prior, we will have the selection of the companies officially. So that's where we have it.
Yeah.
There's also another question that came in, Thomas, around the budget for internalization, the patents. The answer is yeah. So if, as we look at the company, and again, we'll work together on this because what we don't want to do, and think about the in-kind services as from an investment point of view, we just want to have some oversight on what we're using the investment for. So it's not just spent on, hey, we want to spend 50,000 on a huge, marketing party and a pizza and party and for our investors and those kind of topics. But as we look at the milestones, we look at the business strategy and the roadmap. If we see that getting patents in, maybe across border is the best thing for the company, we definitely have patent lawyers that will help out in different jurisdictions that could help build the patent strategy. So the answer is yeah, that it's definitely something that can be used for that.
Would you also like to take the question of understood the 15 part, but what equity do you take, James?
Yeah, of course. So the equity we take or ask for, we're issuing convertible notes and safes. So apologies, I might have made a big assumption because sometimes first time founders don't understand those investment vehicles. But the big key thing about convertible notes and safes is that at that time we're not deciding how much equity we're taking into the company. We're giving kind of a loan in a way that in the next pricing round that the startup has, is it whatever valuation it is, it will dictate. So I know some accelerator programs might say, hey, we're going to give you X amount of money and we have 7% of the company. We don't do that. We let the next pricing round dictate kind of what kind of equity we have in the company. The 15% part is in the in-kind services and fees. So that's a little bit separate. But if we look about what equity we take that 200,000 number, and that's a convertible note or a safe that the price round will dictate what equity we have.
Yeah. Right. So maybe let's share some successful alumni. I think all of those alumni are very happy to answer questions. So if somebody has some specific questions or wants to meet one of the founders of our portfolio startups, I'm very happy to make those connections. Yeah, you see them here. You also see them on our website, on the startups. I'm very happy to say that actually all of them are still alive or have already exited. So we've doing this now for 2 years plus. These are the accelerated startups, and all 11 startups are still alive, which is not normal, but it's a good sign actually that we did a good job and a good selection. So maybe once again, how do you sign up? Scan the QR code or go on our website. You have time until the end of January. If you have specific questions or the need of having a chat with either James or me on our website, you can also book one-to-one meetings with James, sometimes also with me. Yeah. If there's any more questions, you have now the time to write them in the chat. Otherwise, you have something to add, James?
No, I appreciate you guys all taking the time to listen. And again, I'll just reiterate what Thomas said. We're happy to answer questions, reach out to us, and we look forward to your applications. And yeah, thank you for the time.
Yeah. All right.
Good. So I guess we wait a couple seconds in case there's no questions. If not, I guess we can duck on out, and you guys have a great rest of your Thursday wherever you are in the world, either start of your Thursday or ending of your Thursday. So thank you for taking your time with us.
Yes, and looking forward for your applications.
All righty. Thank you guys. All the best.
Bye bye. Bye, James.
Bye, Thomas.